I got my Anchorman shirt on, so let's talk about Anchorman 2 The Legend Continues. Now, I was really excited to see Anchorman 2 The Legend Continues. I love the first Anchorman movie. I did a review for it, which you can check it out on my channel, but safe to say, Anchorman 1 is one of my favorite movies of all time. And when it came to the second one, I had pretty high expectations. I mean, Anchorman 1 is a classic. It's so iconic. It's a movie that so many people can quote. Like you can just quote, 60% of the time works every time. You could quote, "Why don't you go back to your home on Horror Island?" You could quote so many lines from that movie. It's such a it, it's such it's such a landmark for comedies, you know what I mean? And so when it came to this one, when it came to Anchorman 2, we were all really excited to see like what it was going to bring. And I got to tell you, Anchorman 2 did not disappoint. I enjoyed Anchorman 2. Do I like it more than the first movie? No, but I do think it's as funny as the first movie, and that's really saying something considering the fact that this is a comedy sequel, and comedy sequels rarely work. You know what I mean? It's like, when you look at this comedy sequels in the past, like for instance, Weekend at Bernie's 2, everyone goes with Weekend at Bernie's. Look at Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, everyone goes with Ghostbusters 1. Or Dumb and Dumber and Dumb and Dumber, everyone goes with Dumb and Dumber. This is the case with Anchorman and Anchorman 2, in which I have a hard time trying to figure out, okay, which one do I like more? Do I like Anchorman 1 or Anchorman 2? It's tough. So the story of Anchorman 2 The Legend Continues that it takes place in 1980, and Ron Burgundy, and I'm not going to give any story points away, but Ron Burgundy has fallen in hard times, and Doc Connors from the old Spider-Man movies comes up to Ron Burgundy, and he's like, "We're starting the first ever 24-hour news program. Do you want to be part of it?" And Ron's all like, "That is the stupidest idea I've ever heard, but I'll do it." And basically, Ron gets the team back together again. He gets Brick, he gets Brick, he gets Champ, he gets Fantana, all together again, and they go move all the way to New York City. In which case they they become part of the 24-hour news program. They live the life of the 80s. Now, this is a really sort of great Anchorman sequel, and just a great sequel in general. I really like it, and I think the thing that makes this Anchorman work is the actors. I really feel like Will Ferrell, Paul Rudd, David Koechner, and Steve Carell, they still got it, even though it's been 10 years since Anchorman 1, which it really does feel like 10 years since Anchorman 1. It would have been because the actors have looked 10 years older since the first Anchorman movie. I mean, it would have been cheap for them to be like, "Oh, Anchorman 2 takes place 2 years or 3 years after Anchorman 1." I'd be like, "No, it's been 10 years. They look 10 years," and so they play off the fact that it's been a while, and it's really interesting seeing what they've been up to since the last Anchorman movie, especially Brian's. Brian's made me laugh so hard I couldn't stop laughing. Um, and this movie really does poke fun at 24-hour news, and also pokes fun at the fact that the news doesn't report about what people need to hear. They report what they want to hear, and they focus more on ratings than reporting the news. And I really like that. That's something really cool. And this movie does have that classic sort of Anchorman comedy you've come to expect, that really sort of silly, over the top comedy in which you basically just have to accept it. You know what I mean? It's just like the first one. And this movie has a ton of celebrity cameos, which I went nuts over. I couldn't stop laughing at. Which it's funny because every celebrity cameo I saw throughout this movie, I was laughing harder than the last. Which Anchorman 2, I was laughing so hard my stomach was hurting from laughing. You know what I mean? I was close to that in World's End, and this is the end. But for me, this is the one that did for me. I couldn't literally stop laughing. Uh, and yeah, I mean, like, if there's any like sort of detractions I have about Anchorman 2, is that the movie does feel a little too long. The movie's 2 hours long, and I kind of feel like that it's kind of an unnecessary length for a comedy. I kind of feel like Anchorman 1 was like an hour and 35 minutes, and this one is 2 hours long, and I kind of feel like that if this was 2 hours long, maybe if it was 2 hours long, then maybe that's safe for the unrated extended cut. But no, it's like the theatrical cut, which has me thinking, why does Judd Apatow movies have to be, you know, 2 hours or 2 hours and 20 minutes long. I don't get that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, there's some movies that can work at like a 2 hour and something length, like, like an action movie, like the Avengers or the Batman movies and so forth. But for me, it's just like 2 hours, really. But I don't know, it's just a little thing. And there's also this little story point that happens halfway through the movie that kind of remind me of Ricky Bobby. I'm not going to say what it is, but just the whole time I was like watching it, I was like, oh, this is funny, but it reminds me a lot of Ricky Bobby. I don't know, maybe it was intentional. I don't care. But like the point is, Anchorman 2 is a great sequel to the first Anchorman. If you love the first Anchorman, you're gonna love this one. It's got that over the top comedy like that you've loved from the first Anchorman, and it's got great cameos. Will Ferrell's great in it. Paul Rudd's great in it. Steve Carell's great in it. Christina Applegate's great in it. All the cast is great in it. They haven't lost it. So I'm gonna give Anchorman 2: The Legend Continues an A-. So that's my thoughts on Anchorman 2. And so subscribe, like, comment, whatever.